Something strange is happening in America, and most people don't even realize how big it is. The cities that once defined success, power, and opportunity are slowly losing their people. For decades, the dream was simple: move to the biggest city, chase the biggest career, live where everything happens. New York, Los Angeles, Miami, these weren't just places, they were symbols of ambition. But now, something has changed. People aren't just moving anymore, they're quietly escaping. Families who spent years fighting to survive rising rents, packing their lives into boxes. Young professionals who once dreamed of skyline views, now searching for quiet streets and affordable homes. Retirees leaving behind luxury towers, choosing slower, simpler lives. And this isn't a small shift. This is one of the biggest population movements in modern American history. New York City, one of the most powerful cities on earth, is losing residents year after year. Los Angeles, the heart of entertainment and culture, is watching people walk away. Even Miami, once a booming paradise for remote workers and wealthy newcomers, is now seeing people leave at alarming rates. Think about that for a moment. Cities people once fought to enter are now places people are fighting to leave. So what's pushing millions of Americans to make one of the most stressful decisions of their lives, packing everything and starting over somewhere new? The answer isn't simple, but one word keeps showing up again and again: affordability. Housing prices climbing beyond reach, daily expenses rising faster than paychecks, entire neighborhoods transforming into luxury zones where ordinary families simply can't survive anymore. For many Americans, staying in big cities no longer feels like chasing opportunity, it feels like financial survival. And when survival becomes the goal, priorities change fast. People aren't longer asking where is the most exciting place to live, they're asking where can I actually afford to live. But money isn't the only reason. There's something deeper happening, something emotional. After years of crowded streets, endless traffic, long commutes, and constant pressure, many people are rethinking what quality of life really means. Do they really need the biggest skyline, or do they want space to breathe? Do they want luxury apartments or homes they can actually own? Do they want constant noise or peace? For the first time in generations, millions of Americans are choosing lifestyle over status, and that choice is reshaping the entire map of the United States. Instead of massive coastal cities, people are heading toward mid-sized towns, quieter metros, and regions that once received little national attention. Places where housing is cheaper, communities feel closer, nature is nearby, and life feels manageable again. But here's what makes this story even more fascinating. This isn't a chaotic mass migration across the country. It's something more strategic. People aren't randomly relocating, they're carefully calculating. They want affordability, but not isolation, opportunity, but not pressure, growth, but not chaos. So instead of abandoning entire regions, Americans are reshaping them from within, moving from expensive hubs to nearby alternatives, trading one lifestyle for another that feels just slightly more balanced, slightly more sustainable, slightly more human. And this quiet reshaping is creating winners and losers. Some cities are shrinking, some are booming, some that once dominated the economy are losing influence, while others few people talked about a decade ago are suddenly becoming magnets for growth. The question is no longer just who is leaving. The real question is, where is everyone going? And the answer reveals a dramatic shift in how Americans see the future, success, and the meaning of home. If people are leaving the biggest cities in America, then where are they actually going? The answer might surprise you because the new hotspots of America aren't the megacities everyone talks about. They're smaller, quieter, and far more affordable. Instead of moving across the country, many Americans are simply moving a little farther out to places that feel familiar but financially manageable. This is what experts are calling a regional reshuffle. People aren't abandoning their lifestyles completely, they're adjusting them. Someone leaving Los Angeles might move to Las Vegas or Phoenix, still warm, still modern, but dramatically cheaper. Someone leaving New York might head to Philadelphia, close enough to visit any time, but far easier on the wallet. Someone leaving Miami might relocate to Orlando, Tampa, or Atlanta, staying in the same region, just escaping the financial pressure. It's not about starting over from zero, it's about finding a better balance. And that balance is pulling millions toward mid-sized cities, places that used to live in the shadow of major urban giants, but are now becoming the center of attention. Cities like Knoxville, Tulsa, Boise, Eugene, Springfield, Savannah, and many others are seeing a wave of new residents. Why these places? Because they offer something big cities no longer guarantee. Breathing room, lower housing prices, less congestion, shorter commutes, stronger sense of community, access to nature, and in many cases, growing job markets. These cities are large enough to offer opportunity, but small enough to offer comfort, and that combination is incredibly powerful. In fact, some of these mid-sized cities are now receiving far more people moving in than moving out, something that rarely happened in the past. Take Knoxville, for example. It has become one of the top relocation destinations in the country, attracting people with affordable living, scenic surroundings, and a strong university presence that keeps the economy active and youthful. Tulsa is another surprising comeback story. Once struggling with population decline, now experiencing renewed interest because of revitalized downtown areas and low living costs. Even suburban and university-centered communities are becoming magnets because they offer stability, education, and lifestyle all in one place. But cities aren't the only story. Entire regions of the United States are gaining population faster than others. The South and Southwest continue to dominate migration trends, drawing people with warmer climates, lower taxes, expanding job markets, and relatively affordable housing. States like Tennessee, North Carolina, South Carolina, Idaho, and Arkansas are seeing steady growth, while many traditional powerhouses struggle to hold their residents. For decades, the assumption was simple: opportunity lives in the biggest cities. But today, opportunity is spreading outward, becoming more decentralized, more flexible, more accessible. And one major force is accelerating this shift more than anything else: remote work. Millions of workers are no longer tied to office buildings in expensive downtown centers. They can live where they want, not where their company is located. This single change has completely rewritten the rules of migration. If your income stays the same, but your living costs drop dramatically, your quality of life instantly improves. And millions of Americans are doing that math and making the move. But this massive relocation isn't just about comfort or lifestyle, it's also emotional. Moving is one of the most stressful experiences a person can go through, often more stressful than major life events. Packing your entire life, leaving familiar streets, changing routines, building new relationships, stepping into uncertainty, yet people are still choosing to do it. That tells you something important. For many Americans, staying where they are feels harder than leaving. And when enough people feel that way at the same time, it doesn't just change cities, it reshapes an entire nation. But here's something even more interesting. Not everyone moving is chasing money. Many are chasing something far more personal: family. Across migration studies, one of the biggest reasons Americans relocate isn't just affordability, it's the desire to be closer to the people they love. Parents moving closer to their children, young couples relocating near grandparents for support, retirees returning to hometowns, families reuniting after years of distance. After years of isolation, remote work, and pandemic-era separation, connection suddenly matters more than proximity to corporate headquarters. People are redesigning their lives around relationships, not just careers. And when you combine emotional motivation with financial pressure, relocation becomes almost inevitable. But moving isn't cheap, and it isn't easy. A local move can cost thousands of dollars. A cross-country move can cost even more. Packing, transportation, time off work, emotional stress, uncertainty. Yet millions of Americans still choose to go through it. Why? Because staying in place has become its own kind of pressure. Rising rent, crowded neighborhoods, long commutes, financial strain, limited space. For many households, the math simply stops working. And when the numbers stop working, people move. But here's where the story gets even more complex. Some of the places people once rushed toward are now losing residents too. For years, Florida cities like Miami were seen as dream destinations: sunny weather, booming real estate, luxury living, strong migration inflows. But now, even those boom towns are facing population loss. Housing prices surged, living costs skyrocketed, gentrification reshaped neighborhoods. Everyday expenses climbed higher and higher. Eventually, even popular migration hubs became too expensive for the people who moved there. So what happens next? People move again. Not far away, just far enough. From Miami to nearby southern cities, from expensive metros to nearby affordable alternatives, from boom towns to balanced towns. It's a continuous adjustment, like water falling downhill, always seeking the lowest pressure point. And that's why migration today looks very different from the past. This is no longer a massive national reshuffle where people abandon entire regions. It's a series of strategic moves, small corrections, lifestyle adjustments, financial recalculations. Americans aren't running away. They're optimizing. They want affordability, but also familiarity, opportunity, but also comfort, growth, but also stability. And that balancing act is transforming the housing market, job markets, local economies, and even political influence across the country. Entire communities that once struggled to attract residents are now growing rapidly. Infrastructure is expanding, local businesses are booming, housing demand is rising, universities are becoming economic anchors. Meanwhile, some major cities are being forced to rethink everything, from housing policy to transportation to urban planning, because when people leave, everything changes. Tax revenue shifts, workforce distribution shifts, real estate markets shift, economic momentum shifts. Migration isn't just movement, it's power relocating, and the pace of that shift is faster than most people realize. And while all of this movement is happening, something else is quietly reshaping the entire system. Work itself is changing. For decades, where you lived depended on where you worked. If your job was in Manhattan, you lived near Manhattan. If your career was in Los Angeles, you stayed close to Los Angeles. Big cities weren't just lifestyle centers, they were economic necessities. But remote work broke that rule. Millions of Americans realized something shocking. They didn't need to live near their office anymore. A software engineer in New York could work from Tennessee. A marketing manager in California could live in Idaho. A finance professional in Chicago could relocate to a quiet university town and never miss a meeting. Geography stopped controlling opportunity. And once that happened, the logic of expensive city living started to collapse. Why pay massive rent, deal with traffic, and tolerate overcrowding when your income stays the same anywhere? That single realization triggered one of the biggest lifestyle recalculations in modern American history. People began asking new questions. What if I could afford a bigger home? What if I could live closer to nature? What if I could slow down my daily life? What if I could actually keep more of my money? And suddenly, the answer was yes. Remote work didn't just change employment, it changed priorities. Space became more valuable than proximity to an office. Comfort became more important than prestige. Quality of life became more important than city status. And that's exactly why mid-sized cities are exploding in popularity. They offer something big cities struggle to provide: balance. Affordable housing, less congestion, strong community feel, growing job markets, access to universities and healthcare, outdoor lifestyle. Places like Knoxville, Tulsa, Savannah, Raleigh, and many others are becoming magnets for people who want modern opportunity without big city pressure. These cities aren't just cheaper, they're more livable. And for many Americans, that matters more than skyline views or luxury high-rises. But here's the twist. Even as people leave big cities, those cities don't simply disappear, they transform. Some still attract massive numbers of new residents in absolute terms, especially young professionals chasing career launches, education, or cultural experience. So the story isn't big cities are dying. The real story is big cities are no longer the default choice. They are now just one option among many. For the first time in generations, Americans truly have geographical freedom. And when people gain freedom, they experiment. They test new locations. They move closer to nature. They choose smaller communities. They redesign what success looks like. This is not temporary behavior. It's a structural shift in how Americans think about life itself. Home is no longer defined by economic necessity. It's defined by personal preference. And that psychological change may be the most powerful force driving migration today. But even with all these powerful forces pushing people out of major cities, the decision to move is never just economic. It's emotional. Leaving a city isn't just about rent prices or job flexibility. It's about identity. For generations, living in a big city meant success. New York meant ambition. Los Angeles meant opportunity. Miami meant lifestyle. These places weren't just locations, they were symbols. But now, Americans are redefining what success actually looks like. Success is no longer measured by how close you live to downtown, it's measured by how comfortably you live your daily life. More space, more time, less stress, lower costs, stronger community. That emotional shift is massive. People aren't just relocating their homes, they're relocating their expectations. And that's why many movers are not going very far geographically, but they are going very far psychologically. They're choosing nearby cities instead of distant ones. They want familiarity, but with better affordability. They want change, but without losing their support systems. That's why migration today is becoming more regional, more local, more strategic. Instead of abandoning entire parts of the country, Americans are reshaping their lives within them. Someone leaving Los Angeles might move to Phoenix, not across the country. Someone leaving New York might move to Philadelphia, just a train ride away. Someone leaving Miami might choose Orlando or Tampa, staying close but spending less. It's not a dramatic escape. It's a calculated adjustment, a lifestyle upgrade, not a total reset. And this is exactly why experts call today's movement a reshuffle rather than an exodus. People are not running away from cities, they are optimizing where they live, finding better value, better balance, better control over their future. But this raises a deeper question. If millions of Americans are redesigning where and how they live, what does the future of cities actually look like? Will major urban centers adapt or slowly lose their dominance? And more importantly, what happens when affordability spreads and the same problems follow people wherever they go? Because history shows something very interesting. Where people move, prices eventually rise. And that means the story of migration in America is far from over. And while all this reshaping is happening, it's not just about where people are moving, it's about who is moving. Young professionals, remote workers, and families are leading the charge, chasing affordability and flexibility. Retirees are following the sunshine and lower taxes. But the demographics tell an even bigger story. Cities losing residents are often seeing a decline in middle-class households. Wealthier newcomers might move in, but long-time residents are being priced out, and that changes the very fabric of a city. Take Miami, for example. Once the hotspot for pandemic-era relocators, it's now seeing a steep exodus. Nearly 70% of those leaving are heading to nearby cities like Orlando, Tampa, and Atlanta, places still sunny but more affordable. Los Angeles isn't immune either. Wildfire risks, sky-high housing costs, and congestion are driving residents to cities like Las Vegas, Phoenix, and Seattle. Even New York City is losing ground, with Philadelphia benefiting as the go-to nearby alternative. This regional shuffle is reshaping the U.S. map in real time. It's no longer a story of just moving south or west. It's about finding the right city that balances cost, opportunity, and lifestyle. And here's where it gets really interesting. Mid-sized cities are the real winners in 2026. Knoxville, Tennessee tops the list, followed by Tulsa, Oklahoma, and Vancouver, Washington. Affordable housing, good jobs, scenic surroundings, and university influence are pulling people in, while megacities see population stagnation or decline. So the question isn't just why people are leaving big cities, it's where they're going and what that means for the future of urban life in America. Stay tuned, because in the next part, we'll dive into the cities and states that are booming and what that means for anyone thinking about moving in 2026.